All right, we've come to the time and place for the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District #1 meeting of October 22nd, 2024. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Halliburton,
Here.
Stead, Strasser,
Here.
2 present, 1 absent.
First on the agenda, we have approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes for August 20th, 2024 at 2 p.m.
Second. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Halliburton,
Yes.
Strasser,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right, next up, we have Scrivener's error correction presentation. Is that? Okay. In that case, I think next up would be perhaps executive session.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive session to discuss pending and probable litigation pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061F.
Second.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Strasser,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right, we'll be moving to executive session and we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, we've now returned to regular session. Next up, we have a staff presentation.
Right. Well, Mr. Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. My name is David Hasegawa, and I am the district treasurer. The purpose of today's meeting is for the board to consider whether to approve a resolution that would authorize the purchase of a single project, Project GO 20-7, which is the 2007 Wetlands Conservation Easement. While this meeting is a public meeting, it is not a public hearing, and the board will not hear any oral testimony from outside stakeholders, but will instead rely upon the materials created by the district staff and those submitted by stakeholders of the district. And if I get carried away and forget to advance the slides, please feel free to say something. So based on emails and conversations with residents of the district, I'd like to take a moment to clarify the roles of the district, the city of Boise, and the developer. The district is a separate legal entity from the city of Boise. After a petition from the original residents, the district was created in 2010. The developer is a third entity completely separate from either the city or the district. The developer constructs community infrastructure projects and submits those improvements to the district for purchase. The district issues general obligation bonds that are paid via a tax levy to fund the purchase of those projects. Today's resolution would authorize the purchase of a single project, but will not authorize the issuance of bonds. Now let's review how the stakeholders were informed of this meeting. The CID Act does not provide guidance for how much in advance of a meeting date a project approval should be noticed. Today's meeting is considered a normal board meeting, and therefore 5 calendar days is sufficient per Idaho code. However, because the interest and concerns around the project, district staff provided a 10-day notice similar to that of a budget public hearing. The agenda itself was noticed as a regular meeting. In its 1,100-page feedback to this meeting, the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District Taxpayers Association objected to what they deem was insufficient time to review the staff report and the resolution. However, it is worth noting that the association has had the project request for Project GO 20-7 for over 3 years. As I mentioned before, this resolution will be for the 2007 Wetlands Conservation Easement and the calculation of the purchase price of that project. After reviewing the developer's purchase request, district staff recommend that the board approve the project at its requested purchase price of $1,979,000, along with any accrued interest that is owed to the developer, and up to $350,000 in legal fees to be approved. The staff report contains a summary of the purchase request, and I will cover a few key points as part of this presentation. For a project to be approved by the board, district staff look to make sure that it fits the requirements of the district development agreement that was signed between the city of Boise, the developer, and the district, as well as making sure that the project meets the requirements of the CID Act. After reviewing the project, the district staff found that it does indeed meet the development agreement requirements and found that all of the applicable requirements for the CID Act have been met. I'll pause here to see if there are any specific questions to this point or questions about the requirements.
No questions.
Okay. This project has taken a little while to come before the board. The project itself, the impetus for this started back in 2005. And so some of the milestones are up on this slide. I'll just touch briefly a little bit about what has brought us to this point. Due to the anticipated size of the Harris Ranch neighborhood, Warm Springs Avenue could not be expected to handle the volume of traffic that was coming through. And therefore, a plan was put into place to extend Park Center and build a bridge across the Boise River. Prior to the construction of that bridge, a wetlands conservation easement was required to be set aside to offset the wetlands that would be used for the construction of the bridge. The easement was originally deeded to the Idaho Foundation for Parks and Lands in 2007. However, that nonprofit is not a political subdivision of the state of Idaho, which is a requirement for purchase under the CID Act. In 2019, with the assignment of that easement over to the city of Boise, the conservation easement was made eligible for purchase under the CID Act. The purchase price of Project GO 20-7 is based on appraisal that was conducted by an appraiser hired by the developer in 2007. In 2021, the district received objections to the purchase price that is listed in the developer's appraisal. However, those objections were not based on any professional analysis, and no professional analysis disputing the purchase price has been submitted to the district at this time. Instead, the district hired an independent appraiser to review the developer's appraisal. That appraisal review was conducted in December of 2023 and did find some minor variations in how hypothetical scenarios were used in the appraisal, but it's important to note that none of those variations are violations of the standards that appraisers use. The appraisal review did find some other areas of concern, and those areas included the use of an incorrect floodplain map and a few other minor issues. And those issues were addressed in addendum letters that are included in the staff report to the satisfaction of the district's appraisal reviewer. And so a final appraisal review was released in June of 2024. And that final appraisal review found that the methodology used by the developer's appraisal after the addendum letters from the original appraiser is credible and adequately supported. Therefore, the district staff recommend that the board accept the purchase price. There was one final area of concern, and that is that the appraisal indicates that it is effective on the recording date. While the transfer of the deed was accomplished in the same month as the appraisal, which was November of 2007, Ada County did not record that document until 11 months later. And one quick note, the staff report actually indicates December of 2008. It should say October of 2008. The board could potentially find that the appraisal is valid for November of 2007, or it could reject it because the recording wasn't done until 11 months later. However, the consequence of a new appraisal would be that the delays and additional costs incurred to conduct a new appraisal would likely entirely offset any savings. And the reason for that offset as well is any project from the time that it is completed until the time it is purchased is incurring additional interest expense. So you have two things. You have additional interest that will be owed to the developer while any additional work is conducted, a second appraisal. And additionally, you have added staff time and added consultant costs to conduct that appraisal on both the developer's part, and which would be added to their purchase price, and on the side of the district to conduct any reviews. An alternative consideration is that if the board were to purchase the interest in the conservation easement at the time it became eligible, which was 2019, then the district would pay significantly more than the 2007 price. In other words, the district, by accepting that 2007 price, is saving, has considerable savings over a 2019 purchase price. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the board accept the 2007 purchase price and approve the purchase of Project Geo 20-7. And that are all of my prepared remarks. I'll stand for any questions.
We have no questions for prepared remarks. Thank you very much for the presentation. Next up, we have consideration of Harris Ranch CID Resolution 13-2024.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. I move approval of HRCID 13-24, resolution of the Board of Directors of Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District Number 1.
Second.
Mr. Chair, just a couple of comments here. I just want to thank the staff for the due diligence that's been put into this work, both in the presentation today. I did have a couple of questions, but you answered them during the presentation, as well as the staff report. All of the facts that you all have put together, I think it makes it easy to see that this is something that is eligible for this district and is a good fit for it. And I want to make sure that one of the things we don't lose out on is that this is a great asset to this district and to our community, this wetlands preserve. And it does have incredible value, and it should be celebrated that this is actually something that we get to do.
I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the staff for the great work they did on this staff report. It was a lot of pages and a lot of reading, and you did a great job of distilling out the facts and requirements for the CID to show us that it was in fact a reimbursable project. Also like to thank, although they're not present, all the citizens of the CID that took the time to write letters. Regardless of whether we see eye to eye on everything in those letters, I appreciate you guys taking the time to write those letters and participate in your government. I think it's very important. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Halliburton,
Yes.
Strasser,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right, Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Halliburton,
Yes.
Strasser.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, we're adjourned.